The first time Syracuse and Princeton met was 101 years ago, all the way back in 1922 when Syracuse took the win. And history repeated itself today in 2023. But this is just the beginning of a tough road stretch for Syracuse with only ranked opponents ahead. We'll take a look at what went into Syracuse's win today and if we might just see this momentum going forward. Orange Press Pass starts right now. Welcome into Orange Press Pass. Teagan Brown joined alongside Chilekasi, Adele, and Peter Elliott. Neither lacrosse team playing in the Dome today. The ladies playing at CNS, my alma mater. Got to give that little shout out because of Monster Jam happening tonight in the Dome. And some of our producers wanted to do a post show about Monster Jam, but we couldn't let that happen. Had to talk lacrosse. Men in New Jersey taking on Princeton, and a killer effort for the Orange today with 11 different players scoring. Chilekasi, we'll start with you. What are your first thoughts?
Well, Teagan, this game is a complete inverting from last week's game against Notre Dame. The offense was alive. The defense was strong in the first quarter, a lot more even in the second and third quarters. In the fourth quarter, we finally saw the shutdown defense that we've needed to see. Syracuse, games against Duke, games against Maryland, games they haven't been able to close out late, but they did. And Princeton didn't score a single goal in the fourth quarter, a complete inverting from last week's game against Notre Dame.
Absolutely, Chile. Apologies for the orange pun here, but this was a juice win for the Orange. I mean, finally a win against a ranked opponent, and it was a wire-to-wire win. They looked like they were in control the whole game long, and we've seen a lot of worries down the stretch with this Syracuse team. We saw last week against Notre Dame when they gave up a 9-1 goal run in the end against Duke, a 6-goal run late in the fourth quarter. This is a team that has struggled down the stretch to close out games. They never looked like they were not in control of this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Peter and Chile, not a lot of struggle there in this game today. And let's take a look, because it was nothing like what we saw against Notre Dame at the end of their last matchup. Syracuse, the Orange, wearing blue today. Don't be confused when you're looking at these teams on the field. Sam Alexa with the first goal of the night. Cuse up 1-0, picks up the ground ball, his fourth goal of the season.
Long pole goal!
Long pole goal indeed, Chile. Coulter Mackesy, goal for Princeton, assist to Alexander Vidaro. Cuse and Princeton tied 1-1, but now Cuse up 4-1 after a Griffin, or they're going to be up 5-1 after a Griffin Cook goal. Then they're up 5-2 now. Jack Ringhofer with the easy lay-in assist to Alexander Vidaro. And now 7-3. We're in the second quarter. It was the second goal of the day for Ringhofer, that assist to Christian Ronda. And of course, Joey Spallina stepping in now. Cuse up 10-8. And now we're going to go to Cuse being up 10-9 in just a second. Princeton really could not catch up with SU in any way, and there were no Orange defenders right here. That's the reason they scored. Princeton really able to not catch up in this moment. We're going to jump to the third quarter now. 13-15 left. Cole Kirst with the goal, and the BDJ kids are going to like that one, as they always say in the Dome. Feed from that far right wing. Luke Rowe with the goal to put Cuse up 14-10 after a broken stick from Princeton laying on the ground, leaving it wide open for Rowe. And guess what? Hat trick, 11th of the season. That's for Coulter Mackesy over at Princeton. Tommy Brands with the goal now as we get to the end of the third. Cuse up 15-13. We're going to go into the fourth quarter now, and honestly, not a lot really happened in here. A pretty quiet quarter for both teams. Finn Thompson with the goal at the top, assist to Joey Spallina, and that's Thompson's fourth goal of the season.
Yeah, a quiet fourth quarter for Princeton. Not a single goal to close out the game. Syracuse was in control to close out this one.
That's exactly how the Orange won it, and that's exactly what this team needed again, compared to the last few weeks of the season, compared to the season at large, where they've had issues closing out games. That was a big confidence booster for this team, I'm sure.
It absolutely was, and now we had somebody there on the ground. We had our reporter, Ashley Wenskoski. She's there right now. Ashley, listen, we've got to talk about this defense here. They were able to keep it going throughout this entire game. Princeton wasn't able to catch up with them once. Can they keep this defensive momentum going against these next 3 ranked opponents they have on the road?
Hey Teagan, it's great to join you guys down here from beautiful Princeton University. As to your question, yes, Will Mark has been an absolute revelation in goal for the Orange this season. The LIU transfer has played absolutely great between the pipes. 17 saves, really nothing remarkable for him in his play this year. The real difference for the Orange today was that defense in front of him. They've kind of hung him out to dry in some of these prior losses, especially really falling apart against Notre Dame last week. And today they really went to battle in front of Mark. They were really causing Princeton, they were attacking those Princeton offensive players, and they caused Princeton to take some unbalanced and uncomfortable shots. And Will Mark spoke after the game that he really was able to take the shots that he wanted and get those good ones for him to save.
Ashley, we saw last week after Notre Dame how Sam Alexo, spoke up after that defensive meeting and said that the offense needed to do more for the defense to do more. Well, today we saw a lot more from that offense, and we heard Joey Spallina after the game talking about how this is a stepping stone, a big jump forward. What does this win do for the locker room, and how should we look at it? Should we look at it as a spark, as something that could be a catalyst for the future? What do we take out of this game?
Hey, Chile. Yeah, Joey Spallina played absolutely out of his mind today. The freshman is always one of the stars of the Syracuse offense, but 9 points today, 4 goals and 5 assists. Just a banner day here for him today. He did speak post-game about how this is going to really spark the locker room. As you mentioned, Syracuse really went into this game feeling as though Princeton was a winnable game, and I think they feel as though North Carolina next week is also a very winnable game. As you may remember, they lost to UNC earlier in the season, but I think maybe coming off of the momentum of this one, they can find a win next weekend down in Olney, Maryland.
Hey Ashley, Syracuse finally slayed the Dragon today, their first win against a ranked opponent after 5 straight losses to top 20 teams. It must have felt like a great game for the Orange. What was that feeling like on the Syracuse sideline today?
Hey, Peter, yes, Syracuse has to take some confidence from this win, their first over a ranked opponent all season. And they have to kind of build on it, especially ahead of this very tough schedule they have coming up. Number 9, North Carolina next week, followed by Virginia, a team that they haven't seen yet this season, and then number 1, Duke to conclude the season, a team that we saw the Orange almost pull out a win against. If you remember the Blue Devils at home, Syracuse went into overtime, narrowly losing to them 14-13. So I think the players have to take the confidence from this win, and they have to see if they can pull out wins against a North Carolina and a Duke team that they really weren't far away from beating earlier this year, and then we'll see how they fare against a Virginia team that they have not seen yet this season.
Our reporter Ashley Wenskoski, thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that momentum that you mentioned when we come back right here on Orange Press Pass.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back once again to Orange Press Pass on this nice day out, guys. Good weather, right? We're having a good day. We're having a good show. A pretty quick start for the Orange today, ending their first quarter up 6-3 against the Tigers. Chile, we'll start with you. Let's talk about this quick momentum at the top of this game.
Yeah, a thing of beauty, ain't it? And, you know, the fact that this team outscored Princeton 6-3 in the first quarter, we know that they were down against Notre Dame last week 5-0 at one point in the first quarter. And the fact that the long pole, Sam Alexo, scored 15 seconds into this one, it's just absolutely insane. And again, we talk about the inverting between last week and this week, night and day. And when you start hot, it allows you to kind of lay back a little bit, but they finished the fourth quarter strong. But again, strong start for the Orange, exactly what we needed today.
A fast and furious start. That Alexo goal was a great juice goal. I'll say it again for the Orange. We haven't seen this too often. When they've played ranked opponents, they really struggle to start games, and they have to play catch up for the rest of the game, which means they're just fighting their way back in the game. They didn't have to do that today. They felt confident all game long, and definitely a bounce back game from last week with more ranked opponents on their schedule. See if they can keep this form and start strong against ranked opponents like Duke, UNC, and UVA.
And when you start strong, you win, right? Take a look at that on your screen. Hofstra, St. Bonaventure, Hobart. Those are games you start up first, you win. You watch against Notre Dame, you go down 6-2 at the end of that first quarter, you lose. And then you see the reverse again today. So this goes to show you how much a strong start can lead to a win.
And it gives you more insurance in the cases when you go on those runs where you lose a bunch of faceoffs in a row like Syracuse has done this season.
Because it will happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and let's talk faceoffs. I mean, Jack Fine won 20 for the Orange today. Peter, we'll start with you on this one. What did this mean to the Orange going into this game, taking that win in the end there?
Syracuse has found their faceoff guy this season. They've struggled all season long, switching between Jack Fine and Johnny Rachusa, and they've got their guy now. Johnny Rachusa didn't take a single faceoff all season long. That's the first time all season that's happened. Gary Gate has finally said, you know what? Johnny is not the guy for this team. It's Jack Fine, and he had the best performance of a faceoff guy this season for Syracuse. The first time any Fogo has won more than 60% of their faceoffs. What a performance today from Jack Fine. He's an economics major, and that makes sense because his stock is rising for the Syracuse team.
You know, and Fine, he learned from last week. We all watched that game against Notre Dame. He played a good 45 minutes, but really fell apart there in the fourth quarter, and that led to the demise for the Syracuse team. If you talk about that domination in X, he needed exactly that. Princeton came into this game 52nd in the nation in X, and Fine took advantage all game long. 20 of 32, first quarter, 8-2, absolute domination, and that was the catalyst for this team winning today.
And these two teams are kind of mirrors of each other. Yeah. Both kind of went a Fogo by approach, Fogo by committee approach all season long. Syracuse, Princeton rather, Kobe Ginder and Andrew McKeenan. It doesn't really work when you have two face-off guys. You don't have one, and that's why Princeton lost the battle today.
Exactly.
All right, and let's talk now for a second about Princeton. We've spent a lot of time on Syracuse, but I think we all know who the standout is for the Tigers, Coulter Mackesy. He has more games this season with 3 goals than he does with less than 3 goals. So what did you guys see out of number 91 today, putting up that effort against the Orange?
You know, there's a reason why he's on the tour and watch list. 3 goals, 3 assists today. He was 10th in the nation in goals before today, averaging about 3 a game. Last year, the 4th most points by a Princeton freshman with 43, and also he's had the Ivy League Player of the Week award twice for a reason. He's got 3 or more goals in every single game but 1 this season. That was against Penn. And remember, back on March 25th, 8 goals against Yale. So the Orange actually did a really good job in holding him aside today, but still a great performance for the sophomore attack.
I completely agree. I mean, he was exactly as dangerous as we expected him to be. So I think, honestly, a hat trick and 3 assists, that's a pretty good showing for this Syracuse defense because he doesn't have too much around him. If you shut down Coulter Mackesy to just 3 goals, 3 assists, then that'll help you guys out. You'll take that any day of the week against this Princeton team.
Yeah, you'll absolutely take that. And so let's talk about the Orange keeping that lead the entire game. You know, the closest it was in the first when it was 1-1, and then later on in the second when it was 10-9. But really keeping that momentum going. What did the defense do right today?
It was forcing turnovers, rather. I mean, that was the most important thing they've done all season. And they've struggled to do that at times. And Will Mark, of course, stepped up like he has all season long, 17 saves. He's been phenomenal in that all season. But with how they've struggled to win faceoffs, I think they need to win the ball back wherever they can. They've done a good job of that on defense, but they've gotten better on the season on the ride. And the offense has had to take the ball back from the defense. And because they've struggled to win faceoffs, win possessions, they need to get the ball wherever they can. So I was impressed by how the offense did riding on Princeton, they were able to win possession a lot.
Well, you know, it's really a chain reaction. It goes back to what Alexo said in that presser last week. They got to play more aggressive on offense. That happened, and the defense showed it as a result. No goals allowed in the fourth quarter, only 3 allowed in the first. It's, again, a complete reversal of what we saw against Notre Dame. And the fact that they listened to what Alexo said, that defensive meeting that happened after the game definitely had something to do with this performance today.
I wonder what Dave Petromalo said. Oh my God, I don't know if I would have wanted to be there.
Exactly. Oh, man.
Chilekasi and Peter, thank you for the insight. And let's give a little bit more insight about the stand-ups for Cuse in this matchup. The Orange Press Pass player of the game has got to be Joey Spallina. Did you have any doubt? Because we sure didn't. A huge day for the freshman with 5 goals and 4 assists against the Tigers, and he was just 1 point away from being the first player for the Orange to score 10 points since the year 2000. That's before all of us were born, by the way, and honestly, I thought having just 1 player of the game wasn't enough today, so guess what? We're naming a co-player of the game today, and that has got to be Jack Fine, who won 20 face-offs for the Orange today. We just talked all about him. We talked about the effort that he put in, and he kept that momentum going from the very start of the game. Both of these sophomores show that even with a young team here under Gary Gait, these guys have what it takes to work together to take down a ranked opponent. And coming up next on Orange Press Pass, we're staying in school and playing teacher for a little bit. Find out what I mean when we come back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. Teagan Brown joined alongside Chilekasi, Adele, and Peter Elliott. Guys, do you like when report cards come out, or is that the time of year where you don't want to show your parents, you hide it?
Too much anxiety for me. Way too much.
Terrified. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid. I hate checking, but you have to.
Yeah.
You do, and you know what? Sometimes your parents log in, see them themselves. Anyway, guys, we don't have a lot of school year left, and those end-of-the-year report cards are coming up quick. So I figured we'd create some report cards of our own for this lacrosse team. After today's game, we're going to start out with number 22, Joey Spallina. Guys, how you feeling about him? What grade are you giving him? Chilekasi, we're starting with you.
Listen, it's too easy. It's too easy. Gotta give a little A+ right here.
Oh, we've got some drawing here.
Yeah,
I like
know.
it.
I mean, it's not my best penmanship, but it
works.
It's pretty
It's all
okay.
You got an A+ for penmanship.
Thank you.
I'll give
Thank
that.
you. I appreciate that. And here's why, right? 4 goals today, 5 assists. We saw fully what Joey Spallina can do. Not just a scorer, but a facilitator. A season high for Spallina in assists. I'd argue we're seeing a better version of him than what we saw earlier in the season, you know, having 5 goals against UAlbany, 5 against Holy Cross. This is what he was brought in to do. He was brought in to score, he was brought in to facilitate, and he's shown both of those aspects in this game. That's why I'm giving him an A+.
Chile, I'm right there with you. I'm going to give Joey Spallina a third A in his name. I'm going to give him an A. Spallina. He had a phenomenal game today, and he proved why he is one of the best X-Men in the country. And recently, he's kind of moved into more of a facilitator role these last couple games. Hasn't scored as much as he had in recent weeks, but I think he's so dangerous behind the X, finding guys like Finn Thompson and Owen Hiltz, and he did that again today. In addition to scoring, when he's around the crease, it's hard. You almost never see the ball not go in the net. He had a phenomenal game today, and proved again why he's so dangerous for the Syracuse team.
I will say, I have to ask, Chile, you added the plus on there. Peter, you didn't. Is it just because you don't believe in A pluses, or?
He's got to do a lot to earn the A plus. He's played so well this season. He's got to go above and beyond, I feel like, to get an A plus. That just speaks to how well he's played this season.
You'll see why I make a distinction between A+ and A- in a second.
Okay, all right. So we've talked Spallina. Let's talk Will Marks. 17 saves today, keeping SU defense right up there. Ultimately, helping out with that win today for Cuse. What grade are we giving? Peter, we're starting with you this time.
We've given Will Mark high marks all season long, so I'm going to give him a B+. But look at this. I've given him an asterisk because he's suffering from grade deflation. He's played so well all season long. He's kind of like the teacher's pet who turns in consistently great work over and over again. You can't keep giving him A's and A+. So this was a decent performance from Will Mark. 17 saves. He was pretty strong in that. There were a couple goals I think he'd love to have back, but still a strong performance from Will Mark, and you'd want to see that going forward against UVA, UNC, and Duke. A B+. He has done better, and he can do better for the rest of the season against really high-powered offenses.
A little bit of tough love from Peter. I like it. All right, Chile.
Listen, this is why you make that distinction between A+ and A-. I'm giving Will Mark an A-. And again, here is why. The All-American from last year, he's lived up to the name. 17 saves, his most since Duke, making 22 against that game. Look at him after the game. We watched on the screens here him talking, calm, cool, collected. Absolutely gives a lot of grace to a lot of his teammates as well. And his teammates who haven't necessarily backed him up in previous weeks talk about last week. You can't have a great performance if you don't have a good defense, if you don't have a good offense behind you. If the ball is just sitting in the other team's offensive zone the whole game, that's exactly what's going to happen. So Will Mark has deserved the credit he's gotten all season long, but it doesn't always appear just because of the fact that the defense has struggled so much.
I think he deserves an A+ for character. He's so humble after the game, always giving credit to his defense. He's a great guy to talk to after the game.
Exactly.
All right, guys. So this was the first game of the 4-game road stretch against ranked opponents. We've got North Carolina, we've got Virginia, and we've got Duke all coming up. This isn't really an easy road for Syracuse ahead. If you had to rank these ranked opponents coming up, what grades are you giving them?
I think this is fair enough to go a B-. Here's why. Syracuse today, lights out to close the game against Princeton. Princeton coming into this game at 15. There are a lot of better teams here, but let's take a look at this next three. So you got UNC, you've got Virginia, you've got Duke. I think SU can pull out upsets against UNC and against Duke. And that may be a hot take, that last game there, but if you watch the last time these two met, that loss in overtime, I think this SU team has learned a lot since then. It'll be better than that first game for sure. I think Virginia is the toughest. They're the hottest team coming into this one. I think Syracuse has the best chance here against the first game and the last game on this list.
I completely agree with you there, Chile. It's a daunting schedule. Yes. Probably the toughest any team in college lacrosse will face for the final three games. 3 top 10 opponents. It won't be easy for Syracuse. Still, I'm optimistic. I think this is the game they needed to win. They needed a win over a ranked opponent. That's why, as optimistic as I am, I'm going to say an A. But it's a lowercase. It's a lowercase A.
That's really
because I'm
small.
not too confident in it. Okay. It's a lowercase A, but it still is an A because I think they can do it. I mean, this is a strong showing against a Princeton team that, yes, they're not perfect, but they've played those ranked opponents really tough, just like Syracuse has all season long. They've seen 2 of these opponents before. They saw Duke, they saw UNC, a little closer in that Duke game, taking the Blue Devils to OT. But I think they can take what they learned in those losses and apply them to these next couple games. I think we're at least going to see 2 wins in these next 3 games, and that third one will be close.
And it's that argument again, right, as to what I asked Ashley earlier, is this the catalyst that could kind of get the ball rolling forward? I think there's a possibility. When you are playing well, SU at times played well against Notre Dame, but fell in that one. That's demoralizing. Sometimes you need games like this, regardless of opponent, to get right. And I think today's game served as a get-right game that could lead to a lot of successes down the stretch.
And I think they could play looser, too. This team doesn't have the strongest NCAA tournament candidacy. They're not playing with the postseason on the line. They can go in and wreak some havoc on the road against these three teams.
Definitely.
Yeah, you know, they've really got to keep that mindset. We've talked about it. You know, Ashley talked to, a couple players after the game. Basically, they told her, it's all about teamwork. It's about this team. They've been working really well together. So we'll have to keep you both to your predictions and to your grades. But when we come back in just a few minutes, we're going to talk all about what's going around in the world of lacrosse when we come back in just a few.
Here's to the straggly ones, the lopsided ones, the first ones, the I miss my beard ones. Hey, I look good with this ones. But no way he's grown that in the weak ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. The, that one. The itchy ones. The never forgotten ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The started late ones. The absolutely filthy ones. The drawn-on ones, the finger ones, the pin ones, the I nearly didn't do it this year ones, and the yeah, why not ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Learn more at Movember.com.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. Teagan Brown, Chilekasi, Adele, and Peter Elliott. Guys, we've talked all about Syracuse at Princeton today, but let's take a look around the NCAA. Let's see what's going on in the world of lacrosse right now. Let's see, what are you guys thinking? Choose a game. Let me know your thoughts.
That first game on your screen, sorry, Chile, there, Duke and Notre Dame. I mean, that's the game of the week in college lacrosse. Two teams that Syracuse has fallen to in the last couple of weeks. They will see Duke in the next couple of weeks. This game will be really interesting to see play out. They are two of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, quite literally 1-2 in the ACC, 1-2 in the nation. You talk about how good Brendan O'Neill is coming into this game. 61 points in 11 games going into today. And then Jake Naso for Duke, 14th in face-off percentage nationwide. He's won nearly 63% of his face-offs. But you know what pains me? You know what pains me to look at? Villanova versus Denver.
The Philly guy, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Upset how the Wildcats are doing.
All right, let's take a look at the ACC standings now. It's pretty clear that Syracuse is on the very bottom there. But what do we think? They're taking on 3 out of this whole lineup, and they took on the other one last week. What are we thinking right now about these rankings?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to look a little bit different. We got a quite crucial slate of ACC games this weekend. Talk about Duke versus Notre Dame, and then you had Virginia versus UNC last night. Virginia beating North Carolina 19-12, and again, this is why I said in the last segment that I'm scared of this Virginia team. You had Peyton Cormier with 7 points, 5 goals. Xander Dixon, also a guy on the towards on the watch list, 3 goals as well. They're a very lethal team, even though they're sitting there in second.
This just proves how tough the ACC is this season.
Absolutely.
I mean, it really is challenging. Syracuse is, yes, they're technically the basement dweller in this conference, but by no means are they a bad team in the span of college lacrosse. Yes, they're 0-3, but again, all the other 4 teams, top 10 teams in college lacrosse. It's a really tough conference this year.
It really is a tough conference, and listen, we're covering everything right here on Orange Press Pass, including the next one, which is going to be Saturday, April 15th, 4 o'clock. That's Syracuse women's lacrosse. They're taking on Clemson right now over at Cicero North Syracuse High School. They're currently up 19-10, so we're going to have all the coverage on that just 1 week from today. Guys, I got to know, though, we have to go back to men's lacrosse. What are your final thoughts after today's matchup?
Listen, this was the start of a roll, in my opinion, for this team. This is a big win today for Syracuse, a get-right game, maybe the catalyst for this Orange team. To get into the tournament, they need a run like Notre Dame had last season. You know, those 6 straight wins. Even though Notre Dame didn't get in, they need something similar to that to be able to have a spot to get in this tournament. I think all you got to do, win 2 of 3. Win UNC, win Duke. I don't even care what order, but I think that's the biggest possibility for this team to make a nice run in the tournament this year.
It was great to see Syracuse in control all game long. If they can take this momentum down to the next 3 games, I think they really do have a shot at this NCAA tournament.
Yes, sir.
Well, guys, that's sadly all the time we have right here on Orange Press Pass today. For Teagan Brown, Chilekasi, Adele, and Peter Elliott, thank you for joining us, and have a great day.